at Texas Card House for a special live stream. We've got Gil and Gordy of the Gang Poker. Capron is also in the house.
This one gets absolutely crazy.
Stay till the end of the video. We get in a huge pot against each other. Stay to see who wins.
Let's go! Let's do it!
Starting the stream with a juicy stand-up game. We all bought in for the max, 500 in this 1-3. Rinnick calls an early position and we look down at ace-9 offsuit on the button. It's a very comfortable raise. I make it 17 to go and we get 2 callers. Flop comes 4-9 jack with 2 clubs. We're gonna have the best hand here a lot when it gets checked to me, and we won't like a lot of turn cards. I bet 15. Chase, who's already seated with his gut shot straight draw, makes the call, trying to stack everyone at this table, and you'll see he is the action player of the stream. Rinnick puts in a raise to $45 with his middle pair. I'm going nowhere given the circumstances. I make the call and Chase calls as well. Bigger pot than we would have wanted going to the turn card, which is the 6 of diamonds. And this time, Rinnick snap checks it over to me. We're in position, and now I think I've got the best hand that we want to protect. I make it $60 to go, not too big so we can get called by worse. Chase folds and Rinnick calls. The river pairs the board, the jack of spades, and it checks to me. In the moment, I was going to check back any river, but now I have a really good sense of where I'm at. I want to get value here from a worse 9. With the stand-up game in play and the chance to sit down, I rip it all in, which may surprise you. I went for the polar bet here, hoping he would think that I had a missed flush draw. Rinnick goes deep into the tank. Are we gonna get a double up our first hand? No, Rinnick folds. Great fold, Rinnick, and we take down the first pot of the night.
This hand, there's a $6 straddle on, Chase calls, and we've got 2 red ladies in the small blind. I bumped this up to $40 and Chase is the only caller. Flop comes King Jack 9 with the flush draw. An okay flop for queens. I decide to bet small and he calls. Turn is a good one. It's another king. Knowing Chase will call with any piece of the board or any draw, I continue betting for value to the tune of $75. He quickly calls again, and as you can see, he's got an open-ended straight draw. He thinks his outs are any queen or 7, but if a queen comes, we are going to have some bad news for him. And the river comes the 7 of hearts. Wow. Here's the interesting thing. If Chase does have a hand that beats me that isn't a high flush or a full house, he's going to have a tough time raising me if I decide to bet this river. If I check, he'll likely know that a straight, trips, or a low flush is good and put in a hefty bet and put me to the test. He can also then turn some hands into bluffs and put me in a really tough spot, so I decide to bet super tiny here, setting my price against those hands and also squeaking some extra value out of non-believing smaller pairs. He snap calls, shows me the bad news, and I muck. Nice hand.
Our first hand is here, but I gotta be honest guys, it's actually not our first hand. The stream had some technical difficulties and cut out the end of the stand-up game, and we lost the stand-up game. Honesty is the best policy. We were the last one to win a hand. We are already down $80 that we had to pay the rest of the table. And now we see Chase raise to $20 blind on the button. He has not looked at his cards. So when we see ace-9 offsuit in the small blind, we're going in for the 3-bet. We make it $75. He now looks at his cards but does make the call. Off to a flop, which comes ace, jack, deuce, rainbow. We have a marginal made hand against a crazy active player, so I decided to check it, and he checks it back. The turn is the 6 of clubs, a rainbow card, and now it's time to put some money into this pot. I make it $60, and he makes the call. The river is pretty chill. It's the 9, giving us 2 pair. Time to value bet. I make it $175, wondering if it's actually going to look bluffy considering we didn't c-bet this ace-high board. And sure enough, after some thinking, Chase makes the call with just second pair, and we scoop an over $600 pot.
I don't have much explanation to our pre-flop play. We've got a premium 6-4 of diamonds in early position, and for some reason it looks too good to fold. Not good enough to raise though. I put in a limp. Nick opens things up to $20 and gets 3 callers before it's back onto me. I came this far, I stick in the 17 more, and we're off to 3 community cards, which get me licking my chops. Jack 5 deuce with 2 diamonds. It checks to Nick again, who bets $50. Albert calls in the small blind, and it's back to me. With Nick being super aggressive, I expect him to have air here more than you would imagine betting into 4 opponents. I also expect Albert to check raise most of his strong hands like sets, and so I see an opportunity here to put some real pressure on. I raised to 235, which gets Nick the snap fold. I'm loving that. But then Albert does something I certainly was not expecting. He jams for $450 total. Looks like we ran into it unfortunately, but I can't fold for this price. I call, we decide to run this one twice. Here we go.
Oh my god!
gosh.
Drills the straight on the turn for the
and
first.
the boats.
Oh my god!
Oh, there
One of
goes
the outs burned. Nine's no help.
Need to find a diamond.
Oh, he loses it all.
Yup. Rollercoaster of emotions here with the 6-4 diamonds. Unfortunately, we lose both and are on to bullet numero dos.
In this hand, Chase raises it up with pocket nines and +1. Jello makes the call, Rinnick calls in late position. I make the call as well with 9-10 of spades in the big blind. Flop comes Jack Queen 8 with 2 spades. Am I dreaming right now? This is amazing. I check, Chase checks, and Rinnick bets $35. I'm really not scared of any turn card here and don't want to raise and scare anyone else out of this pot, so I just make the call, although I think a raise here is probably better just so we can get stacks in by the river. Chase calls as well and Jack folds, so now we're going 3 ways to a turn, which comes the ace of diamonds. I check it over to Rinnick and unfortunately he checks it back. Brutal. This is why I wish I would have raised earlier. In the river comes the 5 of spades, so we improve to the flush, as does Rinnick. So again, we're checking for the 3rd time and Rinnick is putting out a bet of $100. We clearly don't have the nuts anymore. We actually have the 4th best flush possible, and given his exact hand, a raise would just get the whole stack in and we're gonna double up. But in the moment, I think that a 10 high flush isn't good enough to raise all in. I don't think he's gonna call with 2 pairs, and it's hard for him to have worse flushes than mine. I mean, we're begging for an 8 high flush to call, and in this case, he does have one of those hands. So we just call here and Chase folds. So we win and we're good, scooping in a solid pop, but we could have had his whole stack with the flop check raise. On to the next.
All right, guys, I think we make a mistake on this hand. We see an under the gun +1 limp, a hijack limp, and the button opens it up to $20. We look down at pocket 8s in the big blind, and I think I make a mistake. The button was one of the tightest players at the table, so I gave his raise some credit, and I just flatted. I think we need to be raising here. There's 2 limpers. The button range is gonna be his widest range, even though he's a tight player. And I think 8s is just a great hand that we wanna put money in now, because if we call, let's see what happens. Ready? The limper's called as well, and the flop comes Jack 5-3 with 2 spades. We check to the pre-flop aggressor, he c-bets, and we have to fold. We fold the best hand, as you can see, and I think that this could have been avoided with just an aggressive 3-bet. So we'll make note of that for next time for sure.
This hand, Chase opens and we 3-bet him with King Queen offsuit on the button and he calls. Flop comes Jack 10-2 rainbow and he checks. I bet small and he calls again. Turn is a nice one for me. It's a king. He checks again. This time I decide to get a bit tricky and check it back. We drill trips on the river and he checks once again. Hoping he's got a jack or a 10 he doesn't want to fold. I bet out 145, but he ends up making the good laydown with his pair of deuces. Just a few hands later, we've got the jellos in early position and open to $60 over Chase's $15 straddle. If you remember Chase from previous vlogs, he's famous for playing blind. He brings his style out this hand and calls to $60 without looking at his cards. That is music to my ears, and the flop is great, 9-8-5 with 2 hearts. He checks and tells me that if I only bet $25, he'll call without looking. He can have absolute air here, so I'm cool with allowing him to stick around for a cheap price if it means he's playing blind. He says the same goes for the turn, which is another 5. I put in another green chip, and what do you know? He calls again, cards still remaining untouched. River is a 10 and completes the flush draw. He checks again, and I size up here to $100, which forces him to look at his cards. He flips over 1 card, and it's the Queen of Hearts. We've got a real sweat here because if he has another queen, a 5, or any heart, we're going to lose this hand. If not, let's hope he pays me off. He flips it over, and it's an ace of clubs. Will he hero call me with ace high here, though? And the answer to that is yes. He calls, we flip over the jellos, and scoop in a nice little pot.
In between a little technical difficulty, we added Bo to the live stream, a fan favorite. He looks down at King 9 suited and +1 with a $6 straddle on and opens his first hand to 15. We look down at pocket queens and give him a warm welcome to the table with a 3-bet to 50. Gordy looks down at ace-jack suited in the straddle and makes a good fold. Bo, though, makes the call, so we're going heads up to a flop, which comes king, 3, queen. The live stream run good continues. I see bet for $50 and Bo makes the call with top pair. The turn comes the 5 of clubs and Bo decides to lead into me for $45. I go back and forth a little bit between calling and raising, but I decide I just want to raise now so we can get all in on the river. I basically min-click it back to 110, really enticing him to call, which he does do. We'll head into a river which comes the jack of hearts with 300 in the middle. Bo rips it all in and we quickly make the call. Bo turns his top pair into a bluff and we just have the perfect hand to call, and we're winning another big live stream all-in pot.
We are on the button this hand. There's a $6 straddle from Gordy under the gun plus 2 limps, the hijack limps, the cutoff limps, and we look down at king jack offsuit on the button. We go for the over limp here. I don't think a raise is gonna get people out of this hand. People like to call in Texas, so we go for the rare over limp here. I don't do this too often. Jack limps, the big blind limps, and Gordy under the gun checks. So it's bomb pot time. 7 ways to a flop, which comes 4-6 deuce with 2 diamonds. And it checks all the way around. The turn, the jack of clubs. Second club gives us top pair with a great kicker. This time it checks to Bo, who leads out for $20. The hijack calls, we make the call, and the big blind calls. So we've narrowed down to 4 people, still 4 ways, off to a river, which is an offsuit 7. Checks to the hijack now, who bluffs for $80, a little over half pot. We have top pair with a great kicker still. We are gonna make the call. Everyone else folds, and as you guys can see, we scoop a $300 pot. Let's go.
This hand, Chase and Bo limp. I open king jack in late position to $30 and they both call. Flop comes queen high with a flush draw. We've got a club in our hand and I think this board is fine to begin bluffing on. I bet $40. Bo now stacks out chips and puts in the min raise to $85. Folds back to me and I'm a little suspicious. Wouldn't he want to raise bigger with strong hands? And would he really raise a queen here? Something doesn't feel right, and when my gut tells me that, I'm gonna trust it. I re-raise to 240, Bo gives a little smirk and quickly folds. Phew, glad we got that one through.
In this hand, Chase has a $6 straddle on, which is on the small side for him. Rinnick calls the $6 and I look down at ace 10 of clubs in the small blind, put in a raise. I make it $36 to go. Chase wakes up with a nice ace jack, which has me crushed. In the straddle, he calls and Rinnick calls as well. Heading off to a flop, which comes ace 10, 3. We flop 2 pair, outflop Chase in a beautiful spot. I c-bet for $30. Chase makes the call and Rinnick folds. Off to a turn card, which is the jack. Oh, a gross card. He picks up a better 2 pair and we have no idea how bad that card is. We're looking for more value. I bet a bet of $125 and Chase basically snap calls me. The river comes the 8 of spades. So the obvious draw I got there. I decide to go into check call mode with my 2 pair and Chase checks it back with his 2 pair. He announces a nitty check and we are thankful. We honestly lose the minimum because of that river. I was gonna bet around 300 if that spade didn't come. We're thankful. Even when we're losing, we're running good and we're off to the next hand pretty unscathed.
There's 2 limps to me and I limp as well with pocket deuces. We end up going 5 ways to a nice looking flop. King queen deuce with a flush draw. Frankie now leads for 10 and Chase calls. One thing to note was that Frankie did limp under the gun, which means he'll have a lot of low pairs along with a few strong traps that beat us, like kings and queens. He'll also have ace king and ace queen though, so when it's back to me, I don't hesitate to raise to $50. Frankie is the only caller and we're in position to the 9 of clubs on the turn. He checks. Jack 10 now also gets there, but can't be scared of monsters under the bed. I size up to 120 here with all the draws available, and he calls again. River bricks out, and when he checks to me once more, I bet 225 targeting all top pairs and maybe even a non-believing queen. He folds rather quickly though, and we are recovering quite nicely.
That was a little loose for me last hand, but I thought I could stack jello if we hit our hands, so the implied odds felt like they were there. This hand though, we raised pocket jellos to +1 in 15. Action Chase makes the call, as does Rosie, Patrick, and ends up in Gil in the big blind with queen 9. He makes the call. Let's let Ben announce this flop. He does a great job describing it.
5 of the best. You heard him. And a 9. No! No, 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 no!
What?
I cannot believe what I'm seeing here. Gordy folded queen 9-2 in the small blind. So we're really ecstatic here. A lot of people would slow play this, but with so many people in the hand, I like building the pot right now. I bet $25 and the only caller is Gil with trips. The turn comes the ace of clubs, a great card for my range, and a card that I would bluff at if I had a hand like king queen. I make an over pot size bet of $140 to set up a very comfortable river jam. Gil, a great player in a terrible situation, makes the call. Hoping I have ace king or ace jack, which he beats. The river comes the inconsequential 7 of spades. He checks. We set this up perfectly. I jam it all in and Gil quickly makes the call. Bang, bang, let's go. Back to back huge hands, and Ben does a great job describing our session.
Stacks heading over Frankie's direction, and he is on another heater.
This one, Frankie opens up the action to 25 over limp, Chase calls, and we peel ace-jack suited on the big blind. I contemplate raising, but want to keep Chase and Diego in the pot and decide to call. Flop is about as good as it gets, jack high with 2 clubs. Let's make some money. Checks all the way around to Chase, who bets $50. With a strong holding and a strong draw, let's just fast play this one. I raise to $150 and Chase is the only caller. Thank God we got Diego out of the way, who had 8-7, because the turn is a 6. The interesting thing about this card is that Chase can legitimately have all 2 pair combinations as well as a straight here. That's not a normal thing to say on this board in a $400 pot, but Chase is a special case. For that reason, and also to keep in lower flush draws, I bet small to 175. He snap calls and the river is an offsuit 4, which doesn't change much except for a few more combinations of 2 pairs he could have. Still plenty of worse hands to get value from here though, and we can get calls from Chase with hands as weak as a pair of 5s if we bet small. I bet an enticing size of $150. Chase calls and we see that we had him pipped here with king jack. Probably left some money on the table against that particular hand, but nonetheless happy how I played it against his entire range. This hand gets dicey. We open king queen in early position of 15 and get Diego and Frankie to call.
3 ways to a flop, which comes king, king, 8. Jello c-bets small here, and I can't fold to a single raise because he's going to be c-betting this board with 100% of his range. So we do make the call with our pair, and we plan to assess turn cards very carefully.
The turn is a 4. Oh my gosh, this is not good. Frankie checks again, and I am sitting here on top of the world with trips. I size up to $75, and he makes the sneaky smooth call.
Little next gen on next gen action.
The river comes the 7 of clubs, and I check it over to Jello for a 3rd time, hoping he's bluffing, but in actuality he has a monster. He pots it for $250. It's clearly time to raise this pot up, and we won't be letting Jello off easy. We grab the big chips, we grab 2 more stacks of reds for a sizing of $900. As I slide that stack in, this raise gets the attention of the whole table. What will Jello do?
So freaking gross. What a brutal spot. This raise has me squirming in my seat, trying to replay the hand in my head. There's only 1 combo of king 8 suited, 1 of king 4 suited, and 2 of king 7 suited. That leaves pocket 8s, pocket 4s, and pocket 7s to be the likely hands that he could have that beat me. I bet big on the river with the notion that Frankie won't be raising this bet with just trips, and I'm unsure if Frankie will be ballsy enough to try to bluff me off trips either. After thinking for over a minute, it's time to make a decision.
Wow, and he makes the fold.
Come on. All 7 deuces.
No.
Please, God.
Jello the beast.
We lose a massive one to Frank the Bank there, nice hand man, which unfortunately was one of the last hands of the stream.
Nice hand, Jello. I think the optimal sizing would have been around 700. Oh well, we'll never know if he would have called or folded for that sizing. Great hand, man.
Luckily, we end up stacking Diego in an Omaha bomb pot to end the night, getting it in with top set of queens versus an open ender. We run it twice and recoup some losses when we hold on both boards. What a blast the stream was. Thank you to all who stayed till the very end. You are the real beasts.
Into the game for 600, out for 930. If you want to see how these guys did, check out the Gang Pokers vlog. Will be coming soon.
I was in for 1,000, out for 1527.
I was in for 500, out for 2160. Pretty solid.
Not a bad showing
day.
from the Next Gen boys. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.
Peace. Subscribe.